My throat closed as my father's words hammered against my eardrums. 800,000. Madison's debt. You'll transfer it by noon tomorrow. The folder he'd slapped onto my marble counter seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Behind him, my sister hovered, eyes wide with practiced helplessness. The betrayal wasn't that they needed money. It was the absolute certainty in my father's voice, the unwavering belief that my success existed solely to finance their failures. I felt my smile forming before I even realized what was happening. Small, unsettling, nothing like the practiced compliance they expected. "Fine," I said quietly. "Tomorrow at noon." Their bodies visibly relaxed, mistaking my surrender for submission. They didn't notice how my fingernails dug crescents into my palms or how I never once looked at the folder. When the door closed behind them, the silence in my apartment changed shape. It wasn't empty anymore. It was alive with possibility. My name is Nicole. I'm 34 and a financial consultant. This is the story of how I stopped being my family's emergency fund and started being their consequence. The Hayes family photo that hangs in my father's study tells you everything you need to know about us. It's framed in gold and lit by a spotlight James installed himself. In it, Madison beams like she invented happiness. My father stands tall behind her, and I'm slightly off to the side, my body partially cropped by the frame's edge. That's not an accident. That's our family hierarchy captured in pixels. Growing up, I learned that in our house, love came with conditions. Madison would cry and Dad would solve it. I would succeed and he'd warn me not to show off. When Mom died, he didn't crumble. He simply redirected every ounce of grief into protecting Madison, the fragile one. I was the strong one, which really meant the one they could drain without feeling guilty. I'd paid for Madison's college when Dad couldn't. I'd covered their wedding when Tyler's startup crashed. I'd even bought their first house, though the deed quietly sat in my LLC, not their names. Each favor was another knot in a rope I hadn't realized I was tightening around my own throat. Dad always said, family first, but in his language, family meant Madison first. The more I built my own life, my consulting firm, my downtown apartment with its skyline view, the more he looked at me like independence was an insult, self-respect an act of rebellion. So when James slammed that folder on my counter, I saw more than debt. I saw a pattern stretching back decades. I saw how he'd weaponized love as leverage and how Madison had perfected the art of weaponizing weakness. That night, I poured myself water and stared out at the city lights, wondering how many other daughters had become their family's safety net. How many women had been trained to call financial abuse duty? $800,000. A sister who wouldn't change, a father who wouldn't stop, and me, the daughter who finally would. By midnight, my decision crystallized. The next time my father knocked, he wouldn't find a daughter, he'd find consequences. The plan unfolded with surgical precision. Years of watching my father play power games had taught me something crucial. Control isn't loud. It's silent, calculated, and timed to the minute. First, I secured what was mine. I froze the joint trust Dad had quietly attached his name to for convenience. I transferred my personal funds to a new private account disconnected from every family entity. Then I called Rebecca Bennett, my attorney and oldest ally. "Tell me you're finally doing it," she said, her voice alert despite the early hour. "I'm done financing their mistakes." "Good. Do you want quiet or dramatic?" I smiled. "Both." Within an hour, she'd executed every instruction we'd planned months ago when I'd first confessed I was considering cutting ties. Title transfers, power of attorney cancellations, revocation of signatory rights. Each click was a small freedom signed in pixels. Then came the box, a simple cardboard container, the kind you'd use for moving apartments or storing memories. Inside, I began building my message, copies of every wire transfer to Madison and Tyler, screenshots of desperate texts from Dad, the deed to Madison's dream house under my name, and a single cashier's check for $10,000. On top, I placed a handwritten note. "You always said family comes first, Dad, but maybe family should come honest first. What you'll find inside isn't revenge, it's a receipt." I sealed it with clear adhesive, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Then I booked a one-way flight to Maine. As the confirmation email pinged my inbox, a calm I hadn't felt in years spread through me. For once, I wasn't the solution. I was the consequence. By 9 a.m., my suitcase was packed. Passport, laptop, and a single photograph of Mom and me at the lake. In 4 hours, my father would be pounding on this same door demanding money. He'd find only silence and a box with his name on it. The city was still half asleep when I pulled out of the driveway. Dawn smeared the horizon in pale orange, the kind of light that makes everything look clean, even the past. My suitcase hummed softly with every turn, filled with essentials and freedom zipped tight. The airport stood nearly empty. Businessmen moved like ghosts clutching briefcases. Parents whispered over sleeping children. No one looked at me twice, and I savored the anonymity. I was invisible, something my family had only ever pretended I was not. While waiting in line, I glanced at my phone. 10 missed calls from Dad, 4 from Madison, 1 message. "Nicole, remember who made you who you are." I turned off the screen. For once, I didn't need reminders. Security moved quickly. The officer smiled, asked where I was headed. "Maine," I said, "starting over." He nodded like he'd heard it before. Maybe he had. At the gate, I ordered coffee stronger than my conscience and watched sunrise cut across terminal windows. The last time I'd flown anywhere, it was for Madison's wedding, a weekend of smiles built on overdrafts and denial. Now I was flying toward silence. When they called boarding, I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if anyone was running through the terminal with my name on their lips. In the small airplane window, the world folded beneath me. The houses, the roads, the weight of expectation all receding. I thought of my father standing in my living room hours from now, confident and impatient, ready to collect. He'd knock, he'd shout, then he'd see the box. I imagined his hand trembling as he opened it, the sharp inhale when he realized the story had changed, and for once, he wasn't the author. As the plane climbed through clouds, I released a breath I'd been holding for years. No more guilt, no more saving. Only sky. After landing in Maine, I settled into my rental by the ocean. Before leaving Austin, I had set up my doorbell camera to sync with my laptop, ensuring I could witness what would unfold back home. At exactly 12:30 p.m., my doorbell camera blinked to life. I watched the footage in real time, sitting on my rented porch in Maine, coffee trembling in my hand. There he was, James Hayes, standing on my front step like a man born to own every inch of ground he walked on. His tie was perfect. His expression wasn't. "Nicole," he barked, pounding the door. "Open up. We had a deal." Madison hovered behind him, clutching her designer bag as if it could shield her from reality. "Maybe she's out," she whispered, but even her voice sounded unsure. Then Dad saw the box, plain brown cardboard with his name written in black marker. He frowned, bending to open it like curiosity could still be his ally. The adhesive ripped, the flaps opened. Silence. Then a rustle of paper. He froze. "What the hell is this?" Madison leaned closer, confused. "What's inside?" "Records," he muttered, flipping pages. His breath hitched when he saw the first entry. "Mortgage transfer. Hayes residence to Oakline Holdings. Nicole Hayes, owner." He scanned faster. Dates, payments, signatures, even his own forged authorization for a line of credit he'd opened in my name. Each line peeled another layer of his pride. "Nicole!" He said my name like a curse, like it had teeth. Then came the USB drive. He held it up, confused, slid it into the small speaker I'd left on the porch. My voice filled the air. "Dad, you taught me that family comes first. You just never taught me how to survive being the only one who meant it. What's inside this box isn't revenge. It's the truth. And the truth has receipts." Madison gasped. "She recorded us." He didn't answer. He was staring at the photo I'd left on top, the two of us at the lake before everything turned into transactions. His fingers shook. Then came the note, my handwriting clean and calm. "If you ever loved me for who I am, not for what I can fix, you'll stop knocking on my door and start looking in a mirror." For the first time in my life, I saw him break. Not yell, not threaten, not lecture, just break. His shoulders fell. The box dropped from his hands. Madison started crying, not for me, but for herself. "What do we do now?" He didn't answer. He just whispered, "We lost her." Then he turned, stepped off my porch, and left the box behind. At that same moment, 1,400 miles away, I sat by the window of a quiet cafe, watching the tide rise, and whispered back, "No, you lost control." By the next morning, the silence had shattered. My phone, new number, new SIM, buzzed with updates from Rebecca. Before I left Austin, I had asked her to be my eyes and ears, keeping me informed while I maintained my distance. Hayes Supply Board voted emergency audit. You were right about the missing funds. Madison called, screamed about betrayal, then asked if you'd still pay her rent. They froze your father's company card. He's furious. I set the phone down, let the waves fill the gaps where family used to live. Back in Austin, the collapse had begun. Dad's business partners wanted answers. Madison's picture-perfect life started cracking under the glare of gossip. Screenshots of her social posts leaked. Vacations, luxury bags juxtaposed with #financial hardship hashtags. The comments turned venomous. Must be nice to struggle in designer heels. Tyler disappeared first, a business trip to Las Vegas that no one believed. The creditors followed soon after, polite but menacing men who knocked softly and spoke even softer. Madison tried to reach Dad. He ignored her. Pride and panic were now roommates in his chest. At 10 p.m., Rebecca called again. "You did what had to be done, but he's unraveling, Nick." "I know," I said quietly. "He needs to." Later that night, a video clip landed in my inbox, doorbell footage from Mrs. Morales across the street. She had always been kind to me, and when I texted to check if my family had been causing trouble, she sent her own security footage. Madison was standing on my porch again, under the porch light, makeup streaked, mascara smudged into confession. She held the box, screaming my name like it could rewind time. "Nick!" "We're family. You can't just vanish." Her voice cracked, then softened into something small. "Please, I don't know what to do." I closed the laptop. The sound of her pleading lingered longer than I wanted to admit. But I didn't cry. Not this time. Because this was the part no one ever teaches you. When you stop saving people, you have to watch them learn to swim or sink. 2 days later, a message arrived from Rebecca. "Your father resigned from Hayes Supply. Board replacing him with the VP clean exit." I read it twice. Relief came in strange ways, quiet, thin, but real. For the first time in my life, my father's power no longer extended to my bank account, my conscience, or my heartbeat. I wasn't the good daughter anymore. I was the woman who finally made peace with being misunderstood. It was a week later when my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it until instinct whispered his name. Nicole. My father's voice was quieter than I remembered, stripped of its usual authority. "We need to talk." I hesitated. "Why?" "Because I finally understand what you did." The air in my small rental room went still. "You mean the box?" "I mean everything." He exhaled shakily. "You embarrassed me, Nick. But you were right, too." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Somewhere outside, the main wind rattled the window pane like it wanted to eavesdrop. "I can't fix this," he continued. "Madison's furious. The company's gone. But for the first time, I'm seeing things clearly. You were never the problem. I was." I leaned back against the wall, closing my eyes. The man speaking wasn't the one who had ordered me around like an employee. He sounded human. "Dad," I said carefully, "I didn't want to destroy you." "I know," he said. "You wanted to wake me up." "Consider me awake." His voice cracked. "Do you know what Madison said to me yesterday? She asked who was going to save her now." "And what did you tell her?" I asked softly. He gave a hollow laugh. "I told her she'd have to learn what saving herself feels like." I didn't respond right away. My heart ached, not with guilt, but with recognition. Maybe this was what healing looked like. Two people finally speaking without the weight of money between them. "I saw your mother in you that day," he said finally. "When you smiled at me and said, 'Okay,' that calm, that was her." A lump rose in my throat. Mom wouldn't have let it go this far. "No," he admitted, "but she'd have been proud you did something I never could. Walk away." Silence stretched. soft but heavy. "What now?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe we start by being honest. Maybe I stop pretending control is the same as love." I wanted to stay angry, but the truth broke something open inside me. For the first time, I heard regret in his voice. Not manipulation, not guilt, real remorse. "I'll be in Maine for a while," I said, trying to remember who I was before all this. He chuckled faintly. "Then maybe one day when you're ready, I'll visit." Without any folders or demands. "Bring coffee," I said quietly. "Not debt." He laughed, a small, tired sound. "Deal." When the call ended, I stared at the ocean beyond my window. The wind carried the scent of salt and new beginnings. For years, I thought freedom meant escape, but maybe it meant something simpler, a conversation without control. 3 months later, I found peace in the smallest things. The smell of coffee before sunrise, the sound of seagulls arguing outside my window, the way silence no longer felt like punishment. Maine had a way of washing people clean without asking permission. I'd started teaching financial literacy workshops at the local community center. Just 10 women at first, all carrying their own versions of my story. The mother who always lent, the sister who always forgave, the daughter who always paid. When I spoke about boundaries and self-worth, I wasn't lecturing. I was confessing. Madison called one evening, not crying this time, just tired. "Dad's doing better," she said softly. "He joined some kind of group. Accountability, I think." "That's good," I replied. "And me?" She hesitated. "I got a job at a furniture store. A real one, not online." I smiled. "You proud of yourself yet?" "Trying to be," she whispered. "I didn't think starting over would feel this quiet." "It's supposed to," I said. "Quiet means you stopped running." Then she said something I hadn't heard in years. "Thank you, Nick, for not rescuing me." "What about Tyler?" I asked, realizing I hadn't heard about her husband in months. Madison sighed. "The divorce was finalized last week. Turns out that Las Vegas trip was with someone he met online. We're selling the house, for real this time, not asking you to buy us out." When the call ended, I cried. Not from pain, but from the strange relief of finally letting go. Weeks later, my father sent a single postcard, a picture of a fishing dock, blue water, his handwriting small and uneven. "You were right. I taught you everything about business and nothing about love. Learning now. Proud of you, Dad." I pinned it above my desk. That night, I walked down to the shoreline, the wind cold and forgiving. I thought about everything that had happened. The box, the flight, the fallout, the conversations that healed more than they hurt. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for anyone to knock on my door, because this time, the only thing on my porch was the sound of the sea and the kind of freedom that doesn't need forgiveness to exist. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.